On behalf of the Professional Baseball Strength and Conditioning Coaches Society, I'd like to welcome you to the PBSCCS Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Messina. All right, everybody. So this episode of the podcast is going to be another group chat. I got three guys here with me who have all worked winter ball, and so we're going to dive into their experiences, what they've learned, and all of the good stuff that comes along with winter ball. But first, I'm going to have them introduce themselves. Tanner, I'll have you go first, then Derek, then Ben, and then we'll dive right in, guys.
Hey, my name's Tanner Miracle. I'm the AA strength coach with the New York Mets. I've been with the Mets. This will be my fifth season. I worked for the Toros del Este and La Romana for winter ball this season. We were fortunate enough to win the league this year, actually. My role was head strength coach there. Basically, you can call it a strength conditioning coordinator if you want to make it fancy, but overseeing two other coaches and then working collaboratively with an athletic trainer and two of his assistants as well.
All right, Derek Mendoza, currently with the Seattle Mariners, my seventh year with them, going into my fifth year with AAA in Tacoma. I worked winter ball in 2015, was a part of the Tigres de Aragua in Venezuela, and we also ended up winning the championship. So it was a great year.
Ben Chadwick, the AA strength coach for the Boston Red Sox. This is my sixth year with the team. Back in 2015, I was the strength coach for Leones del Caracas, and I am the only strength coach here without a ring.
So you guys all introduced us a little bit, where you were, what team you were with. Let's dive into that. Tanner, kind of kick us off, just maybe how you got involved in that role, if it was somebody in your, your network, or if it was just out of the blue. And then maybe, I know you said you had a couple coaches, you were working with the ATs. Just kind of go into your experiences and what your roles were and everything for anybody who's listening who doesn't know what the strength coach does in winter ball, or even that there is a strength coach in winter ball.
Right. So originally I found out about this position from somebody in our front office in the big leagues. He has ties to the Toros, and he kind of reached out to our strength and conditioning coordinator in the minor leagues. And he kind of, asked around out of the minor league coaches, who's interested. And I said that I was, and learned a little bit more about the role. I got in contact with some guys in the front office with the Toros, and just asked some questions and, asked around from a lot of the other coaches, the Dominican coaches in our minor league system, who obviously know a lot about it down there. And just got to talking and ended up signing a contract and going down there about 3 weeks after the minor league season concluded. And, it's similar to what we do in the States down there, because there are a lot of guys who have had time in either the minor leagues or the big leagues for affiliated ball. It's a little bit different because you do have help compared to the minor leagues, where it's just you running however many guys, 30 guys, say. And it was my job just to kind of oversee the other coaches, set up routines, conditioning, lifts, arm care, and making sure that guys were doing what they need to do in order to stay healthy, but also make improvements and work towards their goals that they have for the off season, because technically it is an off season for guys that are going back to the States for affiliated ball. So really making sure that the guys had all the resources they needed in order to stay healthy, maintain, and improve what they already have in order to be healthy for another season.
Derek, kind of same question, just guide us on how your experiences went there.
Yeah, so mine was a little bit different in the sense of when I first started in professional baseball, I actually started out in the Dominican. So we were just opening up a brand new complex in 2014. So I actually went out there as the first full-time strength coach to kind of help get that set up, get it up and going. And throughout that time, the guy who was in charge of basically coordinating everything that happened at the complex, Jose Moreno, he actually had been coaching in winter ball for a while. And after I'd worked with him for about 3 or 4 months, he asked me, he's like, hey, would you be interested in winter ball? He's like, the team I'm with, we already have a strength coach that's been there for a long time, but I have some friends that I know you would be great with them. And it was with obviously the Tigres at Agua. So I was like, yeah, I'm interested, but I want more information. So I guess throughout the next couple weeks, he kind of gave me some more information. I asked back and forth multiple times, trying to get the ins and outs of what that was like, because I had no idea that they had strength coaches in winter ball as well. So that's how I originally got in. Same way as happened with Tanner, they sent me over a contract. It was a pretty vague contract, like very short and to the point. And so I had a lot of questions about that. I'm like, well, I'm going all the way out to Venezuela. It's a little bit different at the time. The situation in Venezuela was getting pretty bad. It's terrible right now, but it was getting that way at this point. So, everybody that I talked to, they're like, hey, just get more information. Got more information and decided after talking to the organization, they were good with it as long as I was, felt like I was going to be safe. And so I went. And as far as like the day-to-day, it was similar to Tanner's. I had one other guy underneath me, which was really awesome because I got the opportunity to not only have some help in the way I wanted to structure things, because they gave me full reign. I got help in the way I wanted to structure things, but at the same time, I was able to make an impact in a guy that, probably didn't have even the basic strength and conditioning principles down. So every couple of days we'd sit down and we'd go through things, and he'd ask questions and I'd answer them. So it was a way of kind of being able to give back as well to somebody who had been there for a while and that was going to continue to still be there for a while. And then worked hand in hand with two trainers. We had two trainers. One of them was somebody who'd worked in the States for a long time that had done both. And then one of them was a Venezuelan. And they were both very good at communicating and very open with their communication, which is something that I have heard probably wasn't the case in a lot of places, but with us it was. And but yeah, I mean, it was good. They basically gave me free reign over the day-to-day operations and what I wanted to do. I sat down. I even talked to the manager quite often about what we were doing, and it was just a great situation. I don't know if it could have been a better situation in that sense. So yeah, it was good all around for me.
And then Ben, you were in Venezuela at the same time as Derek. Was your situation similar, or did you have?
He didn't get that ring though.
A little different story. We'll get into the ring soon, but just kind of go over your specific position, Ben.
I think it was pretty similar. Contrasting versus what we do for the States. I think in the States, I'm kind of contracted by the team. I work for the team. Like, I'm given objectives from the team. I report to the team. There, like, even though I'm hired by the team, I felt like I was almost there for the players. So it was strictly like, if guys wanted to work with me, they could. If they didn't want to work with me, it was up to them. I had a lot of veterans, older guys with a lot of big league time on my team. So, I mean, it really was just getting buy-in from the guys I could and, just finding different, like during conditioning, I'd make recommendations, the majority of the guys would do them. As far as the weight room goes, I'd have a set, 40-50% of the team that was on a strict routine with me, and whether it was at the hotel gym or at the field, we'd find a way to get things done. Some of it was just being creative and just trying to find guys to get to do stuff. Cause for a lot of them, like, that's their off season too. Like, they all have jobs during the season in the States, the majority of them. So for them, like, they're playing there so that they can play in front of their families or just make a little bit of extra money. But, a lot of the Latin guys, as some of like, don't get paid as well as some of the American guys coming in. So it was funny. I actually met Derek. Derek, I don't know if you remember the story, but like,
yeah, I do. After you talked about it.
Second half of the season, so a lot of pitchers would come lift if it got them out of shagging. So I would bring a bench, a med ball, and some sort of like power block and just whatever else I could out to the line in the outfield. And we would legitimately have cycles of guys lift during BP, and they would do it strictly so they didn't have to shag. So I met Derek just because I went into the Tigres weight room just to borrow a couple things during BP, and we spoke about it, and I was like, yeah, it's creating a lot of buy-in. And I mean, it was a creative way to get stuff done, but it's definitely much different than the U.S.
Yeah, I can only imagine during BP in the States, if you had your power block and your bench and some med balls, and I think the coaches would not be too thrilled that was going on during BP.
No, the coaches encouraged it. It was partly the pitching coach's idea. So.
Did he hop in too on a couple sets? Like, hey, I need to get some
Never.
bench now.
Not once.
No, so it sounds like all you guys had positive experiences. But I do want to dive into that, how you viewed your experience. Derek, you mentioned that it wasn't always safe, or things were getting a little bit unsafer. And I've talked to Ben about that as well, being in Venezuela. And I think one of the big things that people think that either haven't been to the countries or don't know any better is like, if I go there, either to the DR or to Venezuela or whatever for winter ball, like it's not going to be safe for me. I'm not going to enjoy my experiences. But it sounds like all you guys enjoyed your experiences. So if we could just dive into that a little bit more, maybe you guys have some good stories or whatever it is, but just tell me about your experiences and as a whole, if you liked it, if you'd go back again, if you'd recommend it for others.
In the DR, and I'm sure in Venezuela, it is wild. I mean, during the games, you got trumpets, horns, drums going on during the game. I'm not talking about between pitches, like while the pitcher is pitching and guys are at bat. You got a lot of stuff going on. The fans are wild. Normally the stadiums are pretty packed, and it's a wild, fun, electric experience. I don't know about you guys, but every game was at least 4 hours, and that's because of all the matchups that they play, which can take a little bit of a toll, especially when you start at 7:30 at night. Sometimes you don't get home, even at a home game, until, 2 a.m. If you're on the road, which is there was a place about 4 hours away from where we were at. You don't get home until about 4 a.m. Then you got to play at 7:30 the next day. So there's kind of interesting little things that you got to work around and really kind of think about recovery and the best thing that the guys need at that time. But it's a really good setup. I mean, they take care of you. They really value your time and your experience. Where we stayed at in La Romana was this resort called Casa de Campo, which is supposed to be like one of the nicest in the Caribbean, and it was absolutely beautiful. I lived with the pitching coach, Phil Regan, who's an absolute legend, and then our athletic trainer. So, there's some really good positive things to take away from it as far as like the experience and the electricity and like just the environment and stuff. There's some things that aren't necessarily as convenient as the States, like, travel or maybe the internet's not great at every stadium, but overall just generally very fun and exciting and good people to work with and work around.
Derek, how about you? Same thing? You overall, you liked it? You didn't like it? I think that, talking to you about it before, you did like it.
Yeah. Actually, I loved it. It was one of the best baseball experiences I've had. As far as the safety, I happened to work for, I believe at the time, it was the only team that was owned by the government. So everything we did was top notch. I mean, we traveled in double decker, like nice buses, way better than, a lot of the stuff here in the States. When we flew in military planes. So we literally drove right up to the plane, tossed our bags in there and took off. So as far as safety, because of that, the government owning it, it was great. We were safe. We always had guards with us. Anytime we needed to go anywhere, we literally had a few phone numbers that we could call, and within 20 to 30 minutes, they'd be at the hotel to pick us up, take us where we needed to go. So it was safe in the sense of we had guards and stuff. If we didn't have that, I don't know how safe that would have felt. I don't know if it was the same situation with Ben, but here in a second, he can kind of talk on that or touch on that. But as far as the experience, I mean, it was like Tanner was saying, I mean, it's unlike any other type of baseball you've seen.
Right.
There's chanting, there's all these cool chants, there's cheerleaders, there's mascots that are like the main attraction, there's all these crazy things that are happening, and the fans are so passionate. And I've told this story a lot, but one of the things I loved is like little things, like fans understand what's happening. Like here in the States, they may or may not know what's going on when, a guy sacrifice, gets a guy in and they're like, oh, what is everybody clapping for? He just got out. But, a guy will lay down the bunt and moves the runner over in Venezuela, and the fans are going crazy because they know what the heck just happened, So it was really cool experience to see the passion that they have for baseball. And it doesn't matter if you were a player, you were a coach, it was like almost like they idolized you. You know, it was kind of weird. And then as far as like would I ever go back? Yeah, I actually had signed a contract to go back the following year, and then it just started to get a little worse out there, and I was recommended not to go out there, so I decided not to. But overall, my experience was awesome. I would have done it again, time and time again, if situation wouldn't have got so bad in Venezuela.
Benny, how about you? I mean, it sounds like Derek had a really good time and he was really safe. Was it the same for you being where you were, or did you feel a little bit differently?
Yeah, no, I feel the same. I feel like to tell this story, I should preface it with, I think I'm the only guy that didn't say how I got up there. So first year in baseball, I'm just trying to take everything in. Like I spoke no Spanish at this point. I'm just this white kid from Massachusetts. And we're sitting after the game one night in high A, and you've had both of these guys, John Nunnally, my hitting coach, who was the Leones coach, hitting coach, and Dave Herrera, who's your AT right now. We just stayed after the game for about 2 hours and just talked about winter ball, and like they're telling me all these things, and I have no idea what any of this is. And Dave's worked winter ball in Mexico, Dominican, Venezuela. He's been all over. So he was just trying to find a job for himself that winter. So they're talking all night, and in my head, I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Like, I would never do this. So fast forward to the next day, 5 minutes before I'm going out to stretch before the game starts. And Nunnally grabs me. He's like, hey kid, he's like, you want to come to Venezuela? And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, I didn't tell you to ask a question. He's like, yes or no, do you want to come with me? And I was like, in my head, I was like, I don't know, but out of my mouth, I was like, yes, of course. So with the 4 minutes I had before stretch, I went, grabbed my phone, and I texted my best friend Brady, and I texted my mom, and I was like, hey, like an opportunity might have just opened up for me in Venezuela. Can you look into the city of Caracas and just tell me what it says about it? I got to go out for the game right now. I can't do it. The coach wants an answer quick. So I come back, find out it's got the highest homicide rate in the world. It's very dangerous. Should not go there if you're an American. Just all these awful things. So I went and talked to Nunnally, and I said, sounds good. Like, what do I do next? So fast forward a couple more days, and he gets me in touch with them, and I think it's an interview. And they're calling me on the phone just to tell me when my flight is and when I'm starting. And I'm like, wow, this is wild. So I got permission from the team to go, and halfway through instructs, I left that year. And I remember being at the airport, like, what am I getting myself into? Like, I'm at the airport, like, I'm clearly the only dude there that doesn't speak Spanish. And I'm looking around, and, everybody's kind of got that Latin look to them, except for this 1'6" white dude. His name was Josh Martin. He was a pitcher for the Indians at the time. I think he was with the Phillies last year. But so he stuck out with a sore thumb, as did I. So we linked up, and he ended up being on my team. So we kind of stuck together through that first flight. And I remember getting there, and we got there and our phones didn't work. So we're just sitting at the airport. We have no idea what's going on. They have no way of getting in touch with us. We're just waiting in the airport, and we're just trying to pass time. So we have no money, so we can't buy food. We have no Bolivares. So the player's like, yeah, I'm going to go find somebody to exchange with. Like, so as Derek can probably attest to, like the government rate at the time was 6-1 or 12-1. Yeah. You could never use a card. You always had to do it on the black market. You had to find somebody. And it was like making a drug deal. Like, they'd come in with a backpack with a suitcase filled with 50s and 100s. And like you drop $1, they'd give you 700 or whatever rate you could get. Sometimes it was 1,000. After I left, it was much more than that. So we exchange money. We don't even care if we're getting ripped off, just so we could get food. And he gives $20. They give him 14,000 Bs. So, we get food or whatever. And then finally they get in touch with us. They're on their way. They got stuck in traffic. There's always traffic in Caracas. And we're driving to the hotel, And they're like, we got to pull over and get gas. So we're like, okay. So for those who don't know, gas is also extremely cheap in Venezuela. So we're pulling over, and we watched them fill up this like 18 passenger van with, it's got to be 20, 30 gallons of gas. And we look at it and it says it costs, the whole thing was 6 Bs. And we're trying to do the math and we're like, no, that's got to be like at least $6-7. Not like, we just filled up that van for a fraction of a penny. Like 6/7 of a penny was what it actually came out to. And we were like, this is insane. So that was like my welcome to Venezuela story. I get to the hotel, I'm culture shocked or whatever. And I mean, throughout the year, there was so much to take in. I think the highlight for me was the Leones Magallanes games were absolutely insane. Derek, I'm sorry you never got to take part, but Leones, we were like the Yankees and they were like the Red Sox. So we were the biggest rivalry. Like whenever we played, like it was huge sellout, and those games were absolutely amazing to be a part of. I remember like it'd be 7th, 8th inning, and you'd see all the fans in the bleachers like clear out, and they'd all go to the back, and you'd try to figure out what's going on. And I remember asking Nunnally, he's like, just watch him. And then all of a sudden you'd see one guy run like for the tunnel where you can get out of the stadium, and all the other fans would just start chucking their beers out. Like it's like something you would never see in the States. But it just went on for the last 3 innings of the game. But I mean, the crowds are 30,000 strong, and you're just trying to take in the atmosphere. There was just so much to be a part of.
So kind of bouncing off of that, I do want to hear your best stories. I'm always up for a good baseball story in the States, and I can only imagine some of the things that you guys saw. I know Tanner and Derek have championship rings. Ben, sorry to bring that up again. So they played a little bit longer than you did and had a little bit more time to experience some things. But I want to hear what stories you guys have, some either crazy things you saw or some memorable things from winter ball.
So I got one more if I can keep going. So we were in Zulia, and I think it's like November 18th. They have the Saints Day. It was like La Feria de la Chinita or something like that. And it was this major Saints Day where everybody gets work off. It's like a week-long thing culminating in this big festival at the end. So everybody's got work off. The whole city stays up just drinking the night before, and then we got a game at noon the next day. So we show up, 30,000 people at the game. Everybody's drunk. Miguel Cabrera's throwing out the first pitch, the whole 9 yards. So crowd's getting progressively more and more wild as the game's going on. And at one point, maybe 4th or 5th inning, these 2 or 3 guys jump the fence, sprint through the outfield, run through the entire outfield, jump the fence on the other side. Crowd goes nuts. They don't even kick them out of the game. They just keep going. So I'm like, wow, this is interesting. So probably 2 innings later, this little 4-year-old kid, he's got like just shorts on, no shirt on, famished, like runs on the field, no shoes, no nothing. Runs up to the pitcher, and he's like, pelota, pelota. And it's a gringo pitcher, and I forget who it was. He steps off the mound, like flips the ball to him, and crowd cheers. They take the kid off through the dugout. They don't do anything else. He couldn't get another pitch off. There were probably 1,000 people on the field. The military went on the field. Derek, I don't know if they had them at your games, but military came on with these big shields and shotguns, and they had to bring us all off the field, take us into the clubhouse because it wasn't safe anymore. But they had to go over the PA system, tell everyone to get off. It was like a 20-30-minute delay in the game. I remember going to Nunnally. I was like, hey, has this ever happened before? And he was just like, one other time, Pop. And I'm just sitting there like, what is going on? Like, where am I? Derek, I don't know if you got something to top that.
No, just the whole championship thing. Hey, Oh, we we end up playing Magallanes, and like Ben was saying, is they're like they're like one of the biggest teams. Anytime you play them, it's a big deal. And so that's who we played in the championship, and we actually play our last game that we end up winning at their place, which is probably 45 minutes to an hour away from where we're at. And so we win. We're celebrating. I'm talking about like probably 3 hours worth of celebrating there at the stadium, in the dugout, in the locker room, everywhere in the stadium. We're just all over the place. So finally they're like, hey, we got to go, we got to get in the bus. So we're all full of just like champagne and alcohol all over us, and get in the bus. We have those nice double-decker party buses. Like I said, we get in it. They're like, yeah, we got to go to the plaza. They're going to have a little something at the plaza. So this is like, I don't know, this is probably like 2-3 a.m. We're driving back. And when we get to, I don't know, a few miles out, probably 10 miles out, there's like just lines of people just waiting to celebrate. I mean, just like honking horns, just like, so from that point, we're just like going slow, going through the crowd. There's people coming up to the bus, giving high fives. It's really cool experience. Then we pull up to this plaza. And by this time, I mean, I don't know, it's probably 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning. And I'm talking about thousands of people just wait, thousands. We make our way. The security has to get us all the way up to the stage, and proceeded to celebrate with music and chants. And it was just unbelievable till the sun came up. I don't even know what time it was. After that, a whole bunch of guys still went out to another after party that they were having for us. I didn't go. I was spent by that time. But yeah, just unbelievable experience, and just like the passion, and you see how much that something like baseball means to not just the community, the country in general. So yeah, that was probably my favorite baseball story. It wasn't anything super crazy, but it was something that I just got to experience that I've never experienced. That was really cool.
Yeah, the baseball aspect of it, I mean, you hit on it earlier, but just how passionate they are about baseball in the Latin cultures, and just even when those young guys come over to the States, in the minor league season, just how invested they are in baseball, and how passionate they are, and how emotional they get during games. And it's like, sometimes the American guys don't get it, and they're like, what's this guy's deal? But it's just, exactly, that's their culture. They're just so invested in baseball. And I've heard that the games take forever, like Tanner had mentioned, and they play a bunch of matchups and everything. And like the American guys, like, bro, it's like every out matters there, and like every run and every pitch, they're just fully locked in. Where like you said, and at a game in the States, it's like if 100 people in the stands are actually focused on the game, then you're at like probably a pretty good baseball game. It's just totally different here than, and like I said, I've never been there, but just the stories I've heard about just how much more they focus on baseball there, and I can only imagine what the celebration was like.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Tanner, how about you? Championship is your best thing, or you got something better for us? Maybe not better, different.
I'll talk about the championship at the end just briefly, because I mean a lot to what Derek said. But my favorite story was, we started the season 1-6, and then we won 11 straight from there. We actually ended the season winning 13 straight as well. But in that first 11 game span, it was like game 9, and we were at home, and I think we walked it off, and it was 9 innings, but it was like a 4.5, maybe 5-hour game. I got home at like 2 a.m. Then we're taking a bus the next day at 11 to Santiago, which is about 4.5 hours away. On the way there, the AC breaks in the bus, and like it is hot. Like it is really hot in there. It's cooking. So we pull over, and it takes like 1.5 or 2 hours maybe for the mechanics to come and get it fixed. We hop on the bus, and then we go, and like we have to stop and eat and get food before the game. And then by the time we get there, it's basically just like a little show and go. So this is like game like 10 in a row in the streak or whatever. And we get in there, and we go up like 6-0, like early, like, all right, here we go, boys. And we just fall apart in like the 4th or 5th inning. And we're actually down by 4. It's like 10-6 in the top of the 9th. And our leadoff guy hits a jack. We load the bases, hit a grand slam. We're up by 1. Pitcher comes in and closes it out, and we win. Like just wild, like stuff you can't even like think of. Just wild ways to win games. Walking it off. going ahead, like tying it up, hitting a granny. Like it was unbelievable, man. And we were doing that consistently that whole streak. So that was pretty wild. And like Derek mentioned, so we had 3 champagne parties. So after you clinched the regular season, the round robin, and then the final series, and they got Presidente, which is like their main beer in there, which is delicious. And then they got like champagne bottles and stuff and like big like trash cans full of ice as like a cooler. And like these are big league like champagne parties, like guys with Oakley masks in there, like cameras. And the funny thing is, I'm sure Derek and Ben can attest to this, but there's like random people from the city that just kind of sneak their way into the clubhouse. And there's not like a ton of security, there's enough, but they're in there just going crazy, going wild. And it really does mean so much to those people. And then when we won it, it was actually in the Capitol. And then we had to drive home for an hour and a half. And there was, like you said, Derek, thousands of people in the streets celebrating. I mean, it's like World Series, but bigger to these people. And just being a part of that was absolutely crazy, man. It was a blast. So, yeah, that was my fun experiences there.
Ben, one more time before we move on from this. Sorry you didn't get to experience that stuff. It sounds like it was a really good time. But no, so what did you guys take from winter ball that's helped you be better coaches in the States? I mean, I've heard at least 2 of you speak Spanish. Derek, I'm assuming you know some or a ton of Spanish.
Yeah.
I'm sure that has helped you in the States. But what else have you guys taken from winter ball that's helped you at your affiliate jobs now?
So right after Venezuela, I got moved from high A down to the GCL for 3 years. And I mean, part of my job was I had guys coming over from the academy for the first time that spoke absolutely no English. And working winter ball gave me, I probably came back with, I was probably 20-25% fluent in Spanish at the time after I went in at 0, a hard 0. So I kind of got to experience in Venezuela what a lot of those guys go through when they come to the States. Like they come to the States and they have no concept of English. You know, they're in a culture shock. They have no, you know, I basically put myself in their shoes in their country. And I think that gained me a whole different kind of level of respect for the guys. It just lets you connect on a different level. And when you can connect with them culturally, like when you know the food, you know, different cities, you know, different weird pieces of their culture, when you keep up with things that are in the news going on in their country and you can talk to them about it, like it gives the guys give you a different level of trust that you wouldn't have if you didn't do that. So that's how it changed everything for me.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree. Like I said, I started off in the Dominican and then winter ball in Venezuela. And what that did was it gave me the opportunity to see 2 completely different cultures and learn 2 different type of lingos and being able to relate. But at the same time, like Ben said, when they see that you are willing to go step in their country and just like immerse yourself, one of the big things I want to do when I went out to both those places is I just want to get immersed in the culture. I want to know what it's like to live day to day there. I want to be able to see what they go through. And when you get back from the States, or when you get back there and now you're back in with your affiliated ball team and you have some of these players, it's a really cool experience because you get automatic credibility. It's like they can spot you and like, oh man, yeah, he's been to where I've been, you know, he understands our culture. Like they beeline to you and they gravitate more to you and they trust you. And anytime they have questions, now you're their go-to guy. So it builds this connection that is really hard to build otherwise, unless you sit down and have conversations for hours and hours to get to know them, So those are some of the biggest keys and takeaways that I got from it. And like I said, I'm glad I did it. I'd do it all over again.
Yeah, so I had only been working at high A before I got this opportunity, and being down there really helped me learn how to work with some older guys. Obviously you guys have a little bit more experience with that, and those older guys, AA, AAA guys, they are not always as compliant as the younger guys are. So it helped me to kind of learn how to work with them and, make suggestions for them and kind of come together to work on programs. You have guys that have big league time. You have guys that have been in AAA. I mean, you got all kinds of different ranges there. And that's good practice for me as I want to continue to move up, and I'll be in AA this year and hopefully keep moving up. And that really helped me to just look at the big picture there and, know that there's not just one way to do things, but if you can come together with somebody and put together a program together, it generally works out better for both guys. Also like seeing what other players are doing from their program. So a lot of them have like team builder apps, or they have their own PDF program that their strength coaches got from them. And I was able to check out a lot of those. And, there were some things that I liked, some things that I didn't like. But the things that I liked, it kind of made me reflect on stuff that I'm doing myself with my guys in my programs, and kind of broaden my exercise selection, I guess, and just kind of think more about what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we can always improve on that. And then the last thing was just being kind of in a leadership or like a management role, have two guys that are, I don't like to say working under me, but it's my responsibility to make sure that as a unit we're all on the same page and getting stuff done. And I think that's good practice for, later if I do find myself in a management or leadership role. So really good experiences, things that you can bring back from learning over there.
Binghamton is going to present you with a whole new slate of challenges, my friend.
Yeah, that's what Corey Wan told me. He said, just get ready, but you're going to have to be creative. So yeah, that helped me too. Not a lot of options, not a lot of equipment in the gym and the DR, and you got to get creative. You guys know it well.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully you don't have guys bench pressing out in the outfield. Maybe Ben will let you use his gym instead of using the outfield. But hey, if you got to do it,
you got to bring the weight room to the players.
Yeah, 100%. So we talked
along those same lines. I was going to say along those same lines. One of the things that was really interesting, and I don't know if this was the same way in the Dominican, but Ben, I know it was probably for sure the same way in your situation, is the veterans run the team. Like if you cannot get the veterans to buy in, you will literally be worthless, because they can tell the young guys like, hey, don't listen to him. You don't got to do what he says. And so that was one of the things that I was told right away is like, hey, try to connect with the veterans. And luckily it happened kind of seamlessly, but you can definitely tell, like if the group of veterans that they have that have been there for a long time, playing winter ball years and years and years, if they don't like a manager, they can get rid of the manager. If they don't like a pitching coach, a hitting coach. So it's more so of that, like it's completely not dictatorship, just like it is with us in affiliated ball. But you really have to be intentional about making sure that the lines of communication, especially with those veterans, are open, and that you're intentional about reaching out to them all the time and like saying, hey, where do we feel like we're at? Like what do you think we need today, and just stuff like that. And it really helps. But that's something that's really intriguing that I had no idea it would be that way when I get there.
Exactly.
It would be to that effect.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to AAA in a sense of like, you have some of those guys that have some big league time. You have some guys that think they should be in the big leagues. You got the young guys that have come up through your system who are being exposed to the guy who's, mid-30s. He's got World Series rings. He's just trying to have one more shot at the big leagues. And it's like those guys are probably the ones you connect with because, like prime example for me this year, I had a guy, 2 World Series, mid-30s, left-handed reliever, just trying to make it to the big leagues one more time. And I got along with him great. And he told me like, hey, listen, if the bullpen's slacking off, you just let me know and I'll take care of them. And he had all those young guys under his belt. But if I would have rubbed that guy the wrong way, I mean, the first day he came in, he was like, listen, I'm not going to follow your program. I have my own routine. It's worked for me. And I was like, all right. And then, we built a relationship. And then over time, he would come to me, hey, what suggestions you got for me? What can I add to my routine? But it took time. If I would have just went, hey, this is what you need to do. You're on our squad now. He would have shut me out, and that subsequently would have led to him telling all the young relievers, hey, don't listen to this guy. We're going to do what we want, versus I had him on my side, and he was like, yeah, anything you need, I'll help you out. I'll take care of the relievers, and just tell me the running options. I'm like, all right, we got this. And he's like, guys, we're running this today. And they're like, all right. I mean, he's our leader. So I obviously, again, I haven't been in the winter ball situation, but it sounds very similar to at least what I had experienced in AAA this year. And Derek, you've been in AAA a while. I'm sure it's been the same kind of situation for you there.
Oh yeah, it helped get me ready, because at the time I was in AA, and that following year I was going to AAA for my first year. So it really helped prepare me for those type of situations that I didn't realize were going to be like that when I got out to Tacoma and AAA. So yeah, just like you said, I mean, it's very similar, but even more so because they do have the power to go up to the GM and tell them, hey, we want this manager out here, we want this strength coach out of here. So, but yeah, very similar.
Yeah, luckily I don't think that happens to that extent in the States.
I would hope not.
It's not as wild west type of feel, but no, I mean, it's the same thing. And then like, obviously for Ben and Tanner, even in AA, like there are situations like that. You know, if you get to come over and help on big league side, I know Ben helps on our big league side a ton during spring training. Like those situations do arise where there's guys with time, with money, and they do things a certain way. And if they don't want to do your way, and you know, that first time that one of them hits you with I'm not doing your program, so, you know, go fuck yourself. You're like, oh, what am I supposed to do when this guy does this? Like, you know, it's a shock to everybody, and it's going to happen eventually. So you guys got to experience in probably the most extreme type of environment. So I would assume you're prepared for anything in the States now.
Right.
So what advice do you guys have? I know we talked about how you guys kind of got involved in everything. What advice do you have for other coaches who may be interested in working winter ball in the future?
So I would say for me, like I kind of lucked into my job, if I'm being honest. I mean, I think my job kind of found me, but I think in general, you kind of have to go looking for them a little bit. I think you need to, most teams are going to have some sort of coach that has a connection in one of the leagues. So I think if you want to get involved, I think you got to make sure you're on that coach's good side, and you talk to him and just see if anything's opening up, and just see if you can get on their good side. Something that sounds like Tanner did. I don't know, Derek, I don't know if you had experience with this. If I could go back again and do one thing different, I wish I had a great networking opportunity that I did not take advantage of. If I could do it again, I wish I had the foresight. I was just in my first year, so I wish I had the foresight to reach out to every coordinator on the team and just be like, hey, I got these 3 guys from the Tigers, I got this guy from the Padres, this guy from whatever, and just say, like, do you have any expectations for them, and talk to the player, and, you know, kind of make a plan with the team and with the player. I think it would have been an easier way to create buy-in and a great way to meet a lot of people in baseball. And I kind of just wung it while I was there and just got buy-in from the guys I could. But if I could do it again, that's something I would do different for sure.
Yeah, I would definitely say I would probably do that different as well. I reached out to one or two coordinators, I think, with some of the players, and didn't get a response back. So I just took that as, okay, well, then I don't need to do that. But I wish I would have continued on, because I had, you know, obviously you have quite a bit, almost touching probably half the organizations that you might have. So yeah, I wish I would have done that as well. But as far as getting a job in winter ball, I mean, I guess the only thing I would say is proximity. Is basically find somebody who's worked in winter ball, whether that's a pitching coach, a hitting coach, and a manager, and just kind of align yourself with them, kind of spend a little bit of time with them. And then the big thing is let them know you're interested, because just because you are asking them questions about winter ball, sometimes they just think you want to know about the experience. You got to let them know, like, hey man, I'm interested. If you know of anything, if you hear of anything, let me know. So I think really it's the proximity. Try to align yourself with people who have been in there, who have done it before.
And my advice to any strength coach that has the opportunity to do this is, you know, do your research and really take a hard look at it, and just if you do have the opportunity, get in contact with the front office at the team, and just be completely transparent and upfront with them. You know, if you have a girlfriend or a wife and you're worried about being away from them, see if you can work in something to your contract. There's different things you can do as far as negotiations. It's not always set. I think me and Derek maybe didn't know that before we signed, but if we were to go back, maybe there would be some room for negotiation. But generally they're very good people, and they want what's best for their team and their community. So if you're just transparent with them about your needs and what it's going to take for you to go over there and, you know, actually spend 4 months almost your whole off season over there, then that's probably the best way to do it. And, if you don't have this opportunity and you want it, just talk to all the Dominican coaches that are in your system, because one of them either works for a team or knows somebody that works for that team. And that's probably the easiest way. And if you're, outside of professional baseball, get in touch with some players that you had of Latin descent and see if they know somebody. A lot of people know everybody down there. So that'd be my advice to them.
Yeah, the baseball community is actually kind of small when you think about it. And it seems like everybody knows somebody who, if they didn't work winter ball, they at least know somebody who worked winter ball that they can get you in contact with. My manager in Portland had worked actually for your team, Tanner, before, right up until this season when you were there. And then obviously Ben said our hitting coach had worked it. But I feel like everybody has at least somebody in their network that has worked it. And as Derek said, if you let them know you're interested, they're more likely to bring you on versus, just asking questions. Like, they might just genuinely be interested. Like, I'm just genuinely interested in your experiences there. But, if you're interested in doing it and you want to get out there either to the DR or to Venezuela, like, let people know and somebody will try to get you in somewhere. Everybody knows somebody in baseball as small as our community is. I feel like you have a good chance of getting in.
Yeah, it could turn into other opportunities as well, other good opportunities. The same guy who offered or got me into winter ball as well, a couple of years later, I almost would have had 2 championships because he was now the manager at Lara, Cardenales, and he asked me to go out. At the time, it just wasn't a good situation for me. But then through people I've met in the Dominican and then as well in Venezuela, people I worked for, I got the opportunity to do Team Mexico during the World Baseball Championship, so it's kind of like, once you kind of get into the circle, it's a really good, a lot of good opportunities that come your way as well. So just wanted to touch on that.
No, for sure. And again, I think if anybody's listening to this and they are interested in winter ball or working somewhere, I feel like they should definitely reach out to you guys. You have experienced it. Ben, I know it's been a little bit of time since you guys have been there, but Tanner, you were just there this off season, and you guys have shared a ton of good information with me. I'm way more like understanding of what goes on in winter ball now, and hopefully if anybody's listening, they'll reach out to you guys about potentially getting involved with it, because it seems like it's an awesome time. It's great baseball. It's really passionate stuff, and it's a good learning experience to immerse yourself in the cultures and learn the language and put yourself in their shoes. So like Ben said, when they come to the States, you can relate to them a lot easier.
Oh, yeah.
So I appreciate you guys coming on, and we'll be chatting soon, and stay safe in the meantime.
Likewise. Enjoyed it.
Thanks, boys.
Thanks.
All right, everybody, that concludes this episode with Tanner, Derek, and Ben. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I thought it was really awesome to hear some of their stories from winter ball and how the experiences made them better coaches when they got back to the States. And if you are interested in working winter ball or the ins and outs or anything like that, I would strongly recommend reaching out to these guys, as they could give you some better guidance. 3 things that I took from these guys in the episode: try to use every opportunity that you get to network with others. Try to understand other cultures to help you relate with players from other countries. And try to get your veterans bought into what you're doing to help with the buy-in from everybody on the team. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll talk to you again on the next one.